Hello and welcome to episode 188 of the Pitcher or the Hitter, the podcast by the M-SABR Dynasty League for the M-SABR Dynasty League. I am Cam,
I'm Sahil.
and I have a cat now.
Wait,
So that's yeah, that's the thing that's happened to me.
we just talked off air for like half an hour, and you just now sprung this on me.
I don't know. I just looked over at the cat and I, I
When did you? I have so many questions. Like what's the cat's name? When did you get a cat? Like what? Like just do tell. Like
well, we adopted it yesterday morning from Connecticut. His name is Smokey. He's a little black cat, and yeah, he's a little guy.
nice
Yeah.
kitten, like a
He's
adult.
like he's a former stray. We think he's like 4 years old.
Okay. Uh, I'm surprised that this is just now the first I'm hearing about it when you got the cat like a whole like almost 2 days ago, like without you even sending a picture or
I
anything.
sent Greg asked for pictures. I sent a picture to Greg, but
Okay, well, I didn't even know you got a cat, so how was I supposed to know to ask for a picture?
well, why do you think I was staying in a yurt?
I I I don't know, just for fun.
Oh, it was fun.
Unless you say you got it from like a shelter, right? Not a or
Yeah, it was a shelter. It was like there was a van that had pets that was like driving
a
across the
van.
country from a shelter. So we like these adoption agencies, they're like located across the country. This is from Texas, and they do like deliveries once a month where they drive and drop the pets off where the people are gonna be, or like in various spots.
Okay, so they had one like outside this yurt, and you're like, wait, maybe I should
Well,
get a cat.
well, the we decided to get the cat before we decided to stay in the yurt.
Okay, but you decided to stay in the yurt because you knew the cat adoption would be there.
Yeah, yeah, we needed somewhere to spend the night. It was an early morning adoption.
Uh, okay, this makes way more sense. I thought the yurt was just like camping.
Well, we've decided we'd rather camp in a yurt than spring for a hotel.
Oh, okay. First off, I don't know what a yurt it really is. So I just thought you all did like some like camping trip and you were like, oh, I'm gonna go stay in like a yurt, like and
I
like
mean, it was a camping trip to some degree in that we camped, but yeah.
okay, so then you woke up, you were like, okay, now we're gonna go buy the cat. You bought the cat, and then
Well, we bought the cat a week in advance, but we picked up the cat.
okay. So in this whole week, you had the opportunity to tell me that you bought a cat, and you chose not to tell me that you bought a cat. Do you know what other ridiculous things we've chatted about in the last week that has nothing to do with you buying a cat? Like, like, oh my fucking goodness, what have we even talked about? I kept chatting you about or you know what? This is what we talked about instead. I chatted you that my beer of choice tonight was Goose Island in honor of the Pope, and which you said, "Oh, exciting!" And at no point there did you ever mention, "Oh, hey, by the way, I'm getting a cat."
I mean, I thought that was exciting.
Yeah, I know, but like you got a cat. That's more exciting than a Goose Island beer.
I I beg to differ. No,
I
I
kept I kept updating you about the status of my Colton Cowser Star Wars bobblehead that came in the mail, and you thought that was more important than your cat because I think your cat's more important than that.
well, that's very kind of you to say.
Yeah. Although I do now have a Gunnar Henderson and Colton Cowser Star Wars bobbleheads that look like they're fighting each other, and I think it's very cool, but
And
not
both
as cool as
lightsabers
yours.
orange.
Both lightsabers are orange. Yes.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. It is very exciting. Actually, interestingly, the guy mailed it to me from Massachusetts, so he must have gone to the game on Friday or somehow got it out that Friday. And when I bought it that Sunday evening, he was already in Massachusetts. So the bobblehead traveled from Baltimore to Massachusetts and back to Baltimore. Uh,
Oh, that's kind of wild.
yeah, at first when I saw it was being shipped from there, I was like, ah, did I fuck up? Did I get the wrong thing? And no, it was right. It came in one piece. I never bought anything off of eBay before, so I was genuinely impressed that it all came in one piece.
You've never bought anything off eBay before.
Not that I can remember, no. I'm sure my parents have, but I personally never have. When I was like, when I moved into my apartment, I kind of did some searches on there for like stuff that I think I might like want for the apartment, like memorabilia type of stuff. I never ended up buying anything. I ended up just getting some stuff shipped from my house.
Hmm. Yeah, I guess you yeah had all you needed.
Yeah, no, I've a whole shelf worth of with sports stuff now, and I'm quickly realizing that it is getting full very quickly, and I'm gonna have to create some more space. So,
Yeah, that's the problem of living in a place. You gotta make room for your stuff.
yes, yes, but it is it is a struggle. But and now you have to make space for your cat stuff. So,
Yeah, and that we've been trying to do. We're struggling with that. But yeah, speaking of making space, can we make space in this episode for what we plan to talk about?
I mean, I guess we can. I'm kind of more interested in the cat at this point than our Dynasty Baseball League. I never thought I'd say that, but yeah. Let's. I guess I feel like we talked about all the highlights. Like I don't know why anybody else would want to listen to the rest of this podcast, but I guess we can.
All
Um,
right. We had six matchups here.
Before that, I feel like we had a trade happen that needs to be discussed. Or did we discuss that on air last week? That broke as we're on air, right?
That broke as we were live. We
Okay.
could, I guess, discuss it again if you wanted, but I don't think that's necessary.
No, I don't think it's necessary. Although I will say, Matthew Liberatore had a very nice first start on Andrew's team, and Adolis Garcia, at least early on in the week, I didn't check after that, was hitting pretty well for Ruthvik. So, maybe a win-win. I don't know. But it is interesting because Ruthvik did tell me he was trying to get more speed guys on his team and a little less power. And I guess Adolis does have some speed, but he does have a lot of power or more power than speed. So it's a little interesting. But yeah,
Yep.
I have nothing else to say. That conversation happened after we recorded, so I figured it was worth just dropping that tidbit. But
No, for
no.
sure. But yeah, want to get into the matchups here?
Yeah, let's do that. I think there's an obvious one that needs to go first, and that is Ruthvik v. Andrew. Ruthvik pulled it out 6-5-1. Andrew needed a single run to tie it, and unfortunately could not get that single run. But I mean, this matchup came down to the last game. Alvarado got a hold. Schwarber hit a two-run bomb that made it really interesting and really close. Not that it wasn't all week, but Ruthvik pulled it out. And what is I think the biggest surprise of the season, it has to be, right? He's 5-0 and 2. Uh, and he is just
Yeah,
killing it.
no, definitely a big surprise. I think, yeah, it's interesting that me and uh Andrew have kind of had opposite seasons here. I started out 0 and 3, he started out 3 and 0, and now we've got the same record. But yeah, Ruthvik 5-0 and 2. And he's got wins over some decent teams. I mean, that's a win. It's a win over Andrew, who's looked really solid. He has a tie against both Erik and Jake, and and he's beaten Yuki, who's had a surprisingly good start to the season too. Um, it's really come from the pitching. He finished the week with six quality starts, six saves, 82 strikeouts, and a really solid ERA and WHIP. And those, yeah, both the pitching rate stats went right down to the final day also.
Yeah, and I feel for Andrew here because he had a very good week too. But it just wasn't enough. He had 16 homers, 47 ribbies, 13 steals, and a 364 OBP. Usually, when you win those categories, you kind of think you're going to be in pretty good shape. You just need to win a couple of the pitching categories. But I mean, Ruthvik's a pitching behemoth, and the only pitching category that Andrew won was Holt. But he was close in some of the other pitching categories when he had a 3.51 ERA and a 1.13 WHIP, which was very close to Ruthvik's 3.38 and 1.08. Like, not a lot needed to go different for Andrew to pull it out this week. But he unfortunately could not, and he drops to 500. And it's weird because like the Roto says that like he deserves to be around 500, but like I don't think this is a 500 team. I do think that he's been getting a little unlucky recently, and I it's a little baffling to me, but certainly a fun matchup to track throughout the week.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. And yeah, Andrew, great ad of Tony Gonsolin, um, who has made two really solid starts on his team, as well as a really solid one before that with Miami. Um, yeah, you mentioned it. I don't know if it was on air, off air. I think it was on air, but yeah, Matthew Liberatore made a great start for Andrew as well. Nick Lodolo, so great pitching week for most of the guys. Porter Hodge uh, as an exception, and Jason Adam as an exception. So really, yeah, the rotation was great. Bullpen was a little iffy. And hitting wise, I mean, Schwarber and Witt both tortured uh tortured Ruthvik's team this week. Good week for TJ Friedel as well, who walked 9 times.
Well,
Um,
good for him.
yeah, good for him.
How is Friedel doing on as a whole this year?
And I feel pretty good about the way he's playing. He's kind of, you know, having a TJ Friedel sort of season. He's walking a lot. He's not well, he hit 2 homers on like Tuesday or one of the days, and those he's only got 3 total on the year. He's a pretty good leadoff hitter.
Good for him. I miss him on my team. The loser free season was really fun.
Yeah, I didn't realize I like that you had gotten rid of him until like this off season.
I had to cut him in the middle of that playoff run, and then Andrew pounced on him literally like the day before I would have been able to have picked him up. So uh, I
Yeah,
was
no. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with him, though. I can't say there's a lot of Reds I've been happy with their performance this year, but he's one of them. And so is Gavin Lux, who's not on either of these teams, I don't think. Let's talk
yeah,
about how Ruthvik won the hitting. I mean, yeah, he only won one hitting category, but he did hit pretty well this week. 49 runs, 362 on base, 44 RBI, good hitting week. Did just enough to to win doubles and keep runs as a tie. Shout out to Shea Langoliers, who drove in 7 runs, hit a couple of homers. Good week for Arenado, Domo Arenado. Good week for Stephen Kwan. Pitching wise, the 6 quality starts came from 6 different guys. The best of those starts probably came from Logan Webb, who struck out 9 in a quality start. None of these, there weren't any like 6 shutout innings guys on this team. Well, except for Kodai Senga, who pitched 6 shutout innings, but um, no one who really stood out. So I'm gonna give matchup MVP, to Langoliers.
yeah, he's been pretty solid, especially under the hood. That the A's team as a whole looks pretty damn good this year.
They
Hitting
do,
wise
yeah.
at least. I think some of these young hitters are starting to take off, and I'm excited to see what they turn into. Obviously Kurtz is up, Soderstrom, Jacob Wilson, I think is second in the AL in batting average, only behind Judge, who has just been on a tear this year. Um, you know,
Yeah, he is
there's
not. Yeah, Jacob Wilson is not a guy that I was high on at the draft. So he's certainly proved me wrong.
I thought he was just like a baby Luis Arias, and that's kind of what he's doing. And some people really like the Luis Arias profile, and some people don't. I feel like he's kind of polarizing in fantasy. Um,
Mhm.
but yeah, he's good for him.
Yeah, good for him. Any last words on this matchup before we move on?
Only thing I'll add is this is Ruthvik's fifth straight win, but like I think this is his first like win against a quality team, because he beat Alex and Zach and then Yuki, then Anthony, and then Connor, which I'm not saying those aren't good teams. But like the Conor win was only a 7-5 win. The Yuki win, although Yuki's been playing pretty decent, that was only a 7-5 win. So good for him to like get a win against a quality opponent. He does kind of have go back to a lighter schedule here the next 3 weeks. He gets Alex and Zach, Anthony, and then Daniel and Matt. So Jesus, and then he plays me, but then he plays Connor after that. So I mean, he really needs to keep racking up these wins because that schedule gets tough in the second half of the year. Uh, After not really playing anybody the first half of the year.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And this was maybe the first win this year for him where he looked all around really solid,
Yeah.
instead of just like good, like great pitching but mediocre hitting. This was the best the hitting's looked.
100%.
All right, let's move on here. Do you want to talk about my matchup?
Yeah, let's do it. I'm gonna let you do the kind of set the stage here because you have some fun facts about your matchup with Jake.
Yeah, so
Uh,
this was my first time. This is my second time beating Jake ever, and my first time beating Jake since before he beat me in the finals. Um, since like week 16 of 2022 was the only other time I've ever beaten him. And additionally, this was the first matchup that between me and Jake that wasn't super close. Like this one was, it ended up 8-4. It was 10-2 a couple hours ago. He flipped OBP by like a 10,000th of a point. It was 3-4. It was 3-6-4-6-7 versus 3-6-4-5-8. So like, yeah, like stupidly tight. Like 0.00009 difference in on base. It was like the last batter of one of the games. And that would have been 9-3. And he also flipped something else. He got like a bunch of doubles on the final day as well to flip doubles. But otherwise, though, I was just kind of in control the entire matchup. Oh yeah, the other fun fact, we had every single one of our matchups had there was only one matchup where someone had won eight or more categories, and it was last year when he'd won eight categories against me. But yeah, other than that, it all been like 6-5-1 or 7-5 or 6-6 tie or just insanely close matchups every time. But I feel great about the way I played this week. I had an awesome week. And now I'm 3-3-1. I scored 54 runs, hit 17 homers, drove in 52 runs, 18 doubles. So the hitting was great, but the pitching was also great. I had seven quality starts, which I think is a season high for me. 3.375 ERA might be a season best for me as well. The whip was solid. I had five saves. I just feel really solid about my team all around. Um, Too many hitters to name, but like Vlad was great. Uh, Juan Soto had a good week. Aaron Judge hit three homers. Brandon Nimmo had a good week. Yandy Diaz homered twice. Lindor had a great week. And Jackson Merrill only played. Uh, he only played four games this week, and he was only in my lineup for three. And yet he had a 625 on base. He drove in six runs in my lineup, scored four runs. Um, it was just really great. Matchup MVP though has to go to Zach Wheeler, who had two quality starts, 17 Ks, 129 ERA and 0.64 WHIP. Just you know, I was a little bit worried about him at the start of the year, but he is still just come along strong. He's made five quality starts in a row now. Um, he pitched seven shutout innings on Sunday to kind of. There was a time where it looked like Jake might flip ERA, and Wheeler kind of prevented that from happening. But also, I want to give a shout out. Dylan Cease made a great start. Clay Holmes made a great start. Um, Seth Lugo made a great start, as well as a quality start on my bench on Sunday. And yeah, Framber made a great start as well. Ryan Helsley got two saves. And I just feel really solid about what I saw from everyone on my team this week.
Yeah, no. Amazing how when you were 0 and 3, you were like in the absolute pits, and then even last week, you were disappointed and a tie given where you had started out, kind of at the beginning of the week against DBO or even at different points on that Sunday. But um, yeah, I mean, completely different vibe here. I mean, you were 3-3-1 now. You're the same record as Andrew and Jake. After starting 0 and 3, like I mean, EVO is now only what they're 4-1 and 2, and they're only I guess they're still a game and a half ahead of you, but and Erik is still a half game ahead of you, but you've narrowed the gap on most of the teams and put yourself right back in the playoff hunt. So good for you for, not getting too deep into a hole. Jake's team, on the other hand, I can't figure out this team. Um, I mean, I know he lost 8-4, but man, this is just brutal, the situation he's at right now. I mean, Seager's missed a few games this week, and Casas is now out for the year, and Jordan's on the IL, and Acuna's on the IL, and Strider's on the IL. And I'm not sure he's come back in the shortish term. Snell had actually, I take that back. Strider is either going to be activated this week or going to rehab assignment. But Snell had a setback with his shoulder. It's not really responding the way he's hoped. So I mean, that's like maybe his like top 6 or 7 players, and like Michael Harris has looked just god awful this year. And JT Real Muto is kind of declining here. He doesn't look as great. Like I man, I don't really know what's next for Jake. This is just rough.
Yeah, it's tough. I don't know if he needs to go into a retool or what, but I mean, yeah, the pitching, he was able to quantity out 81 strikeouts, but yeah, tough performances from well, Nick Pivetta getting blown up twice, or really getting blown up once and having a mediocre start as well really didn't help. And then Ryan Presley um, really was was what tanked his ERA. This could have been a much closer matchup if not for that Ryan Presley blow up. 8 earned runs with 0 outs. Um,
Yeah,
so
she didn't even think about that. That alone could have flipped ERA. Actually, maybe not with the amount that he did volume, but it would have. I'm curious what the
it could
difference.
have, it might have been, um, I don't know. It might have been a little different. I'm not sure, but and like he hit fine this week. He hit well in every category except home runs. He had a great week from like Manny Machado, and guys like that. George Springer was pretty good. So I'm not that worried. Maybe if he digs himself a deeper hole and he's still missing guys, then I could see a retool. But I think he'll still be in the playoff picture. He played fine this week.
I think he's in the playoff picture, but if you told me to name who the 6 playoff teams are right now, like or who I project they'll be at the end of the year, I don't know if I necessarily have him there. I think I have him just outside.
Yeah, I think yeah, probably if I had to pick the 6 playoff teams right now, it would be the same 6 from last year. Um, which I don't think has happened before. But we'll definitely see. And there's always gonna be surprises.
I no, I do agree. We are roughly a third of the way through the season now, which is hard to believe. So I'm not saying that anything is completely set in stone or anything, but I mean, you're going to start to see things start to teams start to move into different tiers and whatnot. So some stuff to start kind of keeping an eye out for. But we spent a lot of time here. Why don't we go to The next closest matchup here, Yuki beat Anthony 7-5. Um, and a pretty solid week overall for Yuki. 11 homers, 54 ribbies, 45 runs, 17 doubles. That certainly plays. And then on the pitching side, didn't get any saves. Kenley Jansen had a similar was that this week when Kenley had the uh blow up
No, not this week. At least not in his lineup.
okay. No, it was last week, man. These are all starting to run together, but um you know what? Kenley pitched against the Orioles this week, so of course he didn't blow up this week, but um
There you go.
uh yeah, he didn't get a save this week, but three holds, a 2.56 ERA and a 101 whip. He was able to pull out against Anthony, who had a lot of doubles, had a lot of steals, but I mean, really, if he's not pitching well, he's like a lesser version of Ruthvik right now. He could pitch really well, but he can't hit. And at least Ruthvik is showing some signs of having an ability to hit it. Anthony's just not at all. This wasn't a great hitting week for him. He only had two home runs.
Yeah, it's just been really tough for Anthony's lineup. Um, like Alex Verdugo is just flailing up there. But he was a recent ad. Um, Caleb Durbin has been in his lineup and he hasn't done much of anything. Spencer Steer is struggling. Jace Jung had a rough week. Uh, Willy Adames had a rough week as well. He is having a terrible season. Um, we'll see. I haven't looked under the hood of Willy Adames, but it has been rough for him. That's a guy that Anthony really he should be like one of the best hitters in Anthony's lineup. So to see him struggle is just kind of been a microcosm for his whole season. And yeah, I guess I was no, it's not going to be the same six teams from the playoffs because Anthony made the playoffs last year. I would not be
Yeah.
picking that right now, but I mean Anthony pitched well enough. I mean he's got Garrett Crochet who's making fantastic starts. David Bednar actually pitched well out of the bullpen and struck out six guys in 3 innings. But yeah, tough week for Anthony. Solid week for Yuki. At least in the rate stats pitching wise, he didn't get a ton of quantity. Um, Hunter Brown probably pitched the best of any of his guys, even though he got paddocked. Um,
Hunter
uh,
Brown has been a revelation. My goodness.
yeah,
Remember Yuki was desperately trying to get rid of him like last April and May when he was like blowing up, and I still remember like considering it because he was a big name. And I told Yuki, man, he's been so ass. I don't think I can do it. That haunts me. I'd love to
brutal.
have Hunter Brown, and I have to give Yuki some props, right? Because we were talking about a team here who going into the year, and we've been talking for a couple years, like, hey, he has a pretty good lineup, but he can't pitch. And that's the reason why he's not getting anywhere. And he's starting to figure out the pitching. I mean, Hunter Brown and Max Myers look good. Tamayuki Sagano, like Taj Bradley's had his moments too. So shout out to Yuki. He's this is the most interesting I think Yuki's team's been in a while.
Yeah, no, I agree. His pitching does look really solid. He's got some guys in the hitting. He didn't have a great on base percentage this week, but the lineup looked pretty solid otherwise. Great week from Isaac Paredes, who um, only has 4 home runs this year. I feel like we were all expecting him to kind of feast a little more than this, but he's had a good week nonetheless. 7 RBI for Lourdes Gurriel despite a 200 on base percentage. Um, I think matchup MVP though is probably gonna be Dansby Swanson. The 522 on base, he scored 5 times, drove in 4 runs as well. With a shout out to Yainer Diaz and to Paredes.
Yeah. No, there you go.
Yeah, but yeah, really solid week for Yuki. And he's improving to 4-3, and that will put him ahead of both ahead of both Jake and Andrew and into the and jumping ahead of the jury. That'll put him in the 4 seed right now.
Damn. Yeah, good for Yuki.
Yeah, tied with Eric for the 4 seed. Good for Yuki.
Yeah, no, playing exceptionally well. But yeah, I I think it's time for Anthony to rebuild. Um, I'll say that publicly. Uh, I think the pitching is great. He cannot hit, and this offense is a mess, and I think it's time.
Yeah, I agree. He's got some arms to build around, but he needs uh uh something else in the lineup.
Well, and he even does have a couple of bats I think he could build around, but they are hurt. Or like in Jazz and Odell Cruz got hurt a couple of days ago. He's day to day, and obviously Mike Trout is a still there, but he gets banged up quite a bit. But like I mean, a lot of these games offensively aren't exactly the most inspiring. I mean, I love Ryan Mountcastle, but like he should not be starting for a team consistently, or Alex Verdugo or Cedane Rafaela, so or Caleb Durbin. So yeah, I think some work needs to be done, and given his record this year, this might be a good time. But enough about this matchup. Where do we want to go next? I think there are two more matchups. Three? Three.
Yes, three more matchups.
Let's go to EBO and Alex. That's the next closest. This wasn't a great week for Alex. EVO played decently, but not great. I mean, a 4.39 ERA and a 1.14 whip are kind of meh. Uh, the ERA more so than the whip. I mean, they only had three quality starts. The five saves are nice, 71 strikeouts, and offensively only a 303 OBP. But they did lead that category. 42 ribbies, 11 homers, 45 runs, 20 doubles. Like decent, not like amazing uh overall there. But I mean, Alex's team has just not played well this year, so enough for EBO to cruise to 9-2-1 win.
Yeah, I wish I could have played EBO this week instead of last week. Let me quickly run down the categories I would have. Um, yeah, it looks like I would have beaten them 7-4-1. Um, and perhaps streamed a little harder for a hold at the end of the week to make it 8-4. But I'm sure they're happy with the opponent they got to face this week, and that despite a mediocre week, they were able to win very easily and improve to 4-1-2. Um, yeah, pitching wise, Pablo Lopez didn't get any quality starts, but he did strike out 17 batters. Sandy Alcantara didn't get any quality starts, but struck out 12. Tarek Skubal also struck out 12, but that was just in one start. Um, he is just he's making a run at back-to-back Cy Youngs is what he's doing. On
He's
the
on a
yeah,
whole other level.
yeah, he is definitely. Yeah, I mean, I haven't looked at other guys too much, but he is certainly a front runner. Hitting wise for them, CJ Abrams had a solid week. Paul Goldschmidt is having a really good bounce back season with the Yankees, and that continued this week. No one hit more than two homers, and that was Gunnar who hit two homers. They had 11 homers from 10 different players. So that's kind of fun, very spread out in that respect. Yeah, I'll give matchup MVP to Scooble, I suppose. But yeah, very to use a word you like, midweek for EBO, but they're playing a team that's 0-7 and they got to pull out a comfortable win.
Yeah, it's interesting because I feel like we've been talked about them kind of underperforming to some degree, but they were third in the roto going into last week. Maybe they've dropped a little bit based off of this week and kind of based off of how you and Eric have performed. But yeah, No, they'll certainly take this 4-1 and 2 record and move forward from here. Speaking of good teams that had midweeks, uh, I beat Daniel and Matt 11-1. Um, and I'm a little salty. Uh, so Jameson Tyone is on my shit list. And here's why. I streamed Jameson Tyone because Daniel and Matt had a bunch of starts at the end of the week, and I was like, hey, like Tyone's been pitching great. The Mets aren't the best matchup, but like Tyone looks really good. So I'm gonna stream him. Um, and Tyone does not pitch well, which is fine. But then I go through the week and actually Daniel Matter played me pretty close. And they did on Sunday too. But I started to pull away in a couple of the categories and I was like, hey, like whip is close among other categories, but I think I'm going to be able to pull it out. Part of the reason it was so close was because of the Tyone stream. And then my last pitcher's going Felix Bautista. He gets the first two outs, and at that point, I dip back to leading Daniel. I'm at 12-0. And then he just needs one more out, and then I win 12-0. But he gives up a home run, the first career home run to somebody named Matthew Lugo, who had a sub 220 batting average in AAA this year. He does retire the next batter on a strikeout to end the game, but too late. Daniel, Matt, and I both finished with 132 whips, but you have to go to the third decimal point, and Daniel and Matt win there. So I am denied back-to-back 12-0 wins, which I predicted on the podcast last week. So I'm a little salty about that. Uh, but yeah, my team is pretty mid this week. Um, 307 OBP, 11 homers, 46 ribbies, 13 doubles. Like, no, it's not great. And on the pitching side, it was a little more quantity over quality, albeit the Tyone stream kind of hurt the overall numbers and some of my core guys did better, but um, yeah, it was. I I've had better weeks from these guys. I'm not overly concerned about anybody. Um, Actually, I'll take that back. There's a couple guys I'm looking at here. I'm thinking, man, like they need to kind of get their shit together. But yeah, not my favorite week. But I will certainly take an 11-1 win.
Yeah, I think you were pretty solid. I mean, um, Daniel and Matt were coming in here thinking they could be above 500 for the first time since like 2019. I checked. They started out 5-2 in 2019, have not been above 500 ever since, but they had a chance to do that this week. Wasn't meant to be, although they did keep a lot of categories close. And they got four quality starts again. They've got a lot more depth in the rotation than they have really at any point in a long time. Shout out Shane Smith. Shout out Tyler Anderson. Um, yeah, your team, you had really otherworldly performances from Devers and Freeman this week. I'm going to give Freeman the matchup MVP pretty easily, but Devers was really solid too. And then other than that, just kind of mediocre from your bats. Tough week for Suzuki, tough week for Albies, tough week for Alonso. Duran and Rutschman were all kind of struggling as well. But you had good enough weeks from, and Trey Turner had a good week too, but Freddie Freeman drove in 12 runs out of your 46, and uh, Devers drove in another eight. And yeah, pitching, you had some blowups out of the bullpen from Iglesias and Cano as well. And Nola made a rough start. Not that you were going to bench him at any point, but I'd say you had a decent week. I would have beaten you this week. But that's, I mean, nothing to uh, feel like you have to uh tear everything down over.
No, it was over the course of a season. Even the top teams are gonna have mediocre weeks here and there, and sometimes you get lucky, and it's against a team that isn't performing particularly well. I.e. EBO with Alex or me here and Daniel and Matt. But I will say this: playing Daniel and Matt this week felt very different than playing Daniel and Matt in the past. 11-1 is does not remotely indicate just how close this matchup was. Uh, it was 7-4-1 at one point on Sunday, and Daniel and Matt were keeping me close throughout the week to the point where I thought they might pull it out or at least pull out a tie. And I mean, I'm pretty impressed with, what they've been able to do so far. I know the roto maybe isn't the best for them, but they certainly look a level up than they did last year. And yeah, I mean, they're going to be a sneaky out this year for a lot of the reasons that we've discussed previously.
Yeah, no, absolutely. All right, final matchup here, Eric versus Connor. Eric had a hell of a week. He would have beaten everyone except for me. Um, I would have I would have had a 6-5-1 win over him, and it would have been stupidly tight in every category. Um, but but he was playing Connor instead, and he had an 11-1 victory. I mean, the hitting stats were just remarkable. 61 RBIs, 17 homers, 55 runs, 17 doubles. And even an on-base percentage, 346 is higher than we see from him most of the time. So good job here. And then the pitching was, he got 5 quality starts, which, Eric likes to, get 7 or 8, but 5 is better than we've seen from him most of the year. And it was, in turn, an above average pitching week and maybe a sign of things turning around in that regard for him.
Yeah, it was only a matter of time until Eric got back on track, and unfortunately for him, it wasn't against like me or you or EBO or somebody like that. It was against Connor. But he will certainly take this performance, and I'm sure he will use it to get some momentum here going into a tough matchup against me next week.
Yeah, no, that is going to be a tough matchup. Yeah, let's run down his players before we get into that matchup. I guess Eric owns Andy Pajes now. And he was
I did not know that.
pretty decent this week, actually. Um, Jason Dominguez was really solid. Elliot Ramos had a 560 OBP and drove in 7 runs. Um, on the pitching side, he got a really strong start from Corbin Burns. He had 2 really strong starts from Chris Sale, one of them in which he was paddocked, but the other he pitched 6 and 2/3 shutout against the Reds with 10 Ks. Cole Reagans struck out 19 batters but didn't get a quality start. Matchup MVP, though, I think has to be Shohei. Driving in 10 runs, hitting 4 bombs, 3 doubles, scoring 9 times, and even stealing a base with a 457 OBP.
Shohei's insane. Yeah. No, fair pick.
Yeah, with the shout out to Chris Sale, who if he had a better whip might have done it.
Yeah. Yeah. Anything else you'd like to say about this matchup? Are you ready to?
No, let's mention Connor at least. Just yeah, not good. There hasn't really been much good to say about his team this season, except
Gavin Lux is
Byron
on
Buxton.
that team,
Gavin Lux is
right?
on that team. Byron Buxton is healthy. Not necessarily playing well, but he's healthy. Um,
It's funny because he dominated the Orioles and made me think he's actually having a good year, but I actually don't actually have an idea of what his season's been like.
yeah, not great. And Jacob Wilson's on this team, so that's Jacob Wilson, Gavin Lux, 2 bright spots on Connor's team.
And he finally got rid of Charlie Morton, so another bright spot. I don't know who he picked up in Morton's place, but it was almost certainly better.
He did, and Andrew Abbott's having a good season as well. And it's finally, looking a little bit more sustainable in terms of FIP. Like he's always pitched to a low ERA, but there's always been concerns about regression, and this year it's looking more sustainable. So good for Andrew Abbott and good for Conor in that way.
Yeah, no, absolutely. There are some pieces here. It's not a lot. This team needs a complete overhaul, but there are pieces.
There are pieces, I agree. And yeah, we talked about your matchup with Erik. Um, you ready to dive into next week and dive into that matchup?
Yeah, that's the matchup to watch next week, and I don't think it's particularly close. I mean, um, you know, any matchup between Eric and I is always going to be one of the top matchups of the week. I'm 7-0. I'm sure Eric would love to hand me a loss, or my first loss to the season. Meanwhile, Eric has now moved above 500. It looks like he might be getting out of his struggles, and looks like I might be catching him at the wrong time. But we're gonna see. It's gonna be an interesting matchup. Um, I probably my hardest matchup to date. No offense to you. And I'm nervous to play him, but I am excited, and I am a little thankful that I've built up a buffer before playing him. So a loss here wouldn't be the end of the world, but I'd really like to get this win. It would be really huge for me, to keep myself in the driver's seat for the one seed.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, that's a great pick. And the other one I have my eye on is Yuki versus Andrew. Both of these teams are 500 or better. Um, and uh, yeah, Andrew's kind of in a tailspin a little bit, while Yuki's been surprisingly good. And I feel like weird things happen when these two teams play.
Yeah, it's always interesting when they play. And yeah, I'm excited to see how that one shakes out. I also had an eye on that as well. The other four matchups I think are pretty one-sided, but we'll get into that in a second here. Let's dive into the pick 'em. We virtually had the same picks last week. We both picked me to beat Daniel and Matt. We both picked Jake to beat you. We were wrong about that. We both picked EBO to beat Alex. We were right about that. We both picked Yuki to beat Anthony. We were right about that. I picked Andrew to beat Ruthvik. You picked Andrew and Ruthvik to tie, but Ruthvik ended up pulling out the win. You were damn close to correctly predicting a tie.
Yeah, I've
Andrew just
only
needed
done that I think twice ever, maybe.
something like that. And then you and I both picked Eric to beat Connor. Uh, and Eric beat Connor. I am several weeks behind in doing the math, and I think I might be missing one of the pick'ems. So I'm one of these weeks I'm gonna actually add it all back up, but I'm not gonna do it right now. Um, Especially because we have 6.5 minutes left on this call. So let's do the pick 'em. I picked first last week, and I don't think anything has changed unless you want to pick first.
Maybe you'd like me to pick first. I could pick first.
Which would
Uh,
you prefer?
I'll pick first.
Okay. I'll be
I
nice because I haven't, it's my fault that the math hasn't been done. So,
Okay, I will pick myself to beat the jury. This might be my first time picking myself all year, but I will pick myself to beat this team.
you literally picked yourself to win 2 weeks ago. So,
Okay, well, this might be the second time then. Um, I will pick Jake to beat Connor. Um, I think EBO will beat Team Resnick. I think Ruthvik will beat Alex and Zach. And for the two tricky ones, I feel like from what I've seen from these teams, I'll pick Yuki to beat Andrew. Why not? Let's get a little bit spicy. And I will pick Eric to beat you, because I think Eric I mean, if he's gonna go 18-2-2, he's got to win this matchup.
Yeah, that is true. I've made references to it each week, but yeah, I think Eric needs to go what like 15-0 the rest of the way to get that
Yep.
18-2-2.
And he's
So
on a 2-game winning streak.
yeah, there you go. Okay. Um, I'll pick Jake to beat Connor. I'll pick you to beat Daniel and Matt. I would have liked to point out that the last time you played Daniel and Matt, you picked Daniel and Matt to win because you were 0-3 at that time, and you said you wouldn't pick yourself again until you won. I'll pick EBO to beat Anthony. I will pick Ruthvik to beat Alex and Zach. Uh, I'm gonna pick Andrew to. Mm, mm. Yeah, I'm gonna pick Andrew to beat Yuki. I get the temptation to go with Yuki, but I think Andrew's better than he's been playing. Um, and then I'm gonna pick myself to beat Erik. I last week notwithstanding, my team's been pretty good on the year. And I'm gonna keep the faith. So, uh.
Well, all right, we got
I'm curious.
yeah.
I don't know where we have it. What my record against Erik all time? I forget. Do I have a losing record against Erik?
Well, let's find out. It should be at the back of the dynasty sheet. You are four, no. You are 5-7 against Erik. So if you have a losing record, if you win here, you'll still have a losing record, but it'll be a little bit closer.
Got it. Yeah. I'm still gonna pick myself to beat Erik.
Well, all right. With this win, by the way, you improved to 8-1-1 against Daniel.
Yeah.
But
Nice.
but you
Okay.
do have a loss.
Yeah. That's why I hesitated. I was remembering that loss. Ugh. But yeah.
All right.
Want to try to forget, but thank you for reminding me of my losses.
You're very welcome. Anything else we want to dive into before we wrap this up?
I I still can't believe you have a cat, but we're yeah. I expect to see pictures when we get off this recording here.
I will.
That's all I have to add. Also, I'm sure there are like a bunch of good cat songs for this week's podcast, and I insist that there are
You know, it's
several.
crazy. No one's ever written a song that had the word cat in it.
Are you joking?
I don't think I don't think it's ever happened before. I don't think it's ever been done.
I think you're messing with me at this moment.
Well, I guess you'll have to find out um, at the end of this sentence when we play the outro song.
This podcast is good.